All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is January the 12th, 2023. And happy birthday. Happy 75th fifth birthday to Jerry Devan. And wow, 75, man. I would never think that you're 75. But happy birthday, buddy. That's good, sir. That's a big one. That's three quarters of a century. That's a beauty. Well, you look like you're doing great, and it's good to see you guys this morning. Um, oh, how sweet. Good morning from Janet and her high school sweetheart. You guys are great. Well, good morning to Jerry and Janet. Happy birthday, Jerry. Good morning or good evening to Dayspring, and good morning to Ron and Amy. And to good morning to my sarcastic sister, Maria. But I started it with the y'all thing yesterday. So I did send one out. Oh, it didn't. Oh, I sent out a text. Sorry if it didn't. If it didn't go, let me double. Oh, what's it telling me? Oh, why is it not? It's giving me a message here. Let's try now. Now you'll get it. All right. There we go. Sorry. Let me get back to where I was. All right. And good morning. Good morning to Hattie. And I guess others will be probably coming then, since I didn't send out the text. I had hit send, but it didn't go. Good morning to Pastor and Sister Martinez, and to Barbara Callahan. And good morning to Richard. I hope you're doing well. And to hello to Misty, and to Elizabeth and Jesse, and good morning to Kathleen, and to Sonia and Margarita, and continuing to pray for you and for your health. And good morning to the Eddies, to Lauren and Mike and David and Levi and Valor and Haven, and to Everett, and hello to Joshua, and good morning to Richard and Ellen, and to Rachel, and to Kelly and Melody Woods, and to Kelly Kenfield. Hope you're all doing really well. Well, let's just jump right in. We're in a great passage, and sorry for the late start today, by the way. Just kind of got caught a few minutes behind, but we're going to be in Isaiah, the last part of Isaiah 27. So we're going to finish up Isaiah 27 today, and the title is "Struck and Scattered, to be covered, recovered, and restored." Struck and scattered, to be covered, recovered, and restored. And so let's reread some, again, backing up, kind of getting a running start. I'll try and not comment on the previous stuff. Isaiah 26:19. Yet it will be, your dead will live, my corpses will rise. Awake and shout for joy, you who dwell in the dust. Your dew is like the dew of the dawn. The land of dead souls will come to life. Go, my people, enter your rooms and shut your doors behind you. Hide for a moment, or for a little while, until the wrath is past, until the passing over of the wrath. And there's an imagery of Passover even. For behold, Adonai is coming forth from his place to punish, or to meet with, to deal with, attend to the inhabitants of the earth for iniquity. The earth will disclose her bloodshed, no longer covering up her slain. In that day Adonai will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, with his fierce, great, strong sword. Leviathan, the twisted serpent. He will slay the dragon in the sea. And again, you have here the picture of, Leviathan, the gliding serpent, the Leviathan, the twisted serpent, the dragon in the sea. So you sort of have the picture of the power of the air, the coiling serpent of the ground, and the dragon, which is in the sea, kind of showing the whole creation manifested with that which is in opposition to the ways of God. And again, back to Isaiah 24:21, the Lord had said, it will come about in that day, Adonai will punish or attend to the hosts of heaven on high, and the kings of the earth on the earth, right? He's going to deal with those that are in the heights, and he's going to deal with those that are on the earth, in the place where you are. So he's going to deal with Leviathan, and with the dragon in the place that they are. In that day, verse 2 of Isaiah 27, sing to her, a vineyard of delight. I, Adonai, watch over it. I water it every moment. I guard it day and night so that no one may harm it. It's not that I'm angry, or I'm not angry, he says. He says, there is no, it says wrath, there is none to me, literally is the saying there. It says wrath, like heat, anger, there is none with me. Who would give me thorns and thistles? Into battle I would march against them. I would burn them up altogether. He says, if only there were briars and thorns confronting me, I would march against them in the battle. I'd set them, I'll deal with them. But I'm going to guard my vineyard. But instead of the thorns and instead of the weeds we talked about yesterday, going in opposition to the purpose of God, there's an invitation to the weeds, to the thorns and the briars. Rather, let them rely on my strength. Let them make peace with me, or peace of my making. So it says, Ya'aseh shalom li, shalom ya'aseh li. It says, let them make peace with me, peace let them make with me, or peace of my making. Let the weeds come to me for refuge. Right? So all is not hopeless for the thorns and the briars that are against God. God invites them to come to him for refuge, to come to make peace, to have the shalom that he has. He is the peacemaker. In days to come, Jacob will take root. Israel will blossom and bud. It will sprout and bloom and fill the face of the world with fruit. So Israel will accomplish its purposes. God has never been done and still is not done with his purposes for Israel. He never will be. Until, when we are all made whole, his purposes will be accomplished. In the days to come, Jacob will take root. Israel will bud and blossom and fill the world with fruit. Well, so we come in today's passage. Well, how's this going to come to be? Right? How will the people of God come into that kind of restoration where the garden, the vineyard of God is functioning in the way it's intended to be, with the fruitfulness that it's intended to function? Well, the answer to that comes in this next section of the poem, because you'll remember back in Isaiah chapter 5, the vineyard, the Lord had done everything for the vineyard. It was in good soil. He had chosen, it was good stock. He had built a protection so that nothing could get to the vineyard, and then he attended to it. He built his house right in the middle of it. He wasn't going to just be checking in on the vineyard. He would be in the midst of the vineyard. And yet the fruit of the vineyard was bitter. It wasn't good fruit. So then what does he do? What does he do with an unfruitful vineyard? Well, often there are times where the Lord, when he's dealing with others, he cuts it out. He's cut it out. He's going to start over. But with Israel, he has purposes. He has an everlasting promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so with Israel, he leaves a remnant because his purposes are going to be accomplished. His purposes for the whole world. So in verse 7 it says, when the vineyard wasn't what it was supposed to be, did he strike? And the word Israel, you'll see, is italicized, or I have it italicized on my page, because it's not actually in the original Hebrew here. It says, has the Lord struck as he struck those who struck them? Right? Has he struck her as he struck down those who struck her? Right? Or were they slain as their slayers were slain? Right? So that's the question here. If Israel on some point feels sort of unfairly treated by God, like why by God, and they wonder, how's this all going to ever come to pass? Well, first she's invited to see how gracious Israel's invited to see how gracious God has been. There's a rhythm to when you first read this in Hebrew, you're like, wait, what is it saying? Even in English, it's like, did he strike her as he struck those who struck them? And you're like, what? Wait, who? What? But it kind of so it takes a moment to understand. So the first question is literally like, did he strike like the striking of the strike who struck him? So basically, looking back over Israel's history, did God ever strike them the way he struck down their conquerors? For example, when he drowned the entire Egyptian army in the Red Sea, or did he ever slay them as he slew the 185,000 of Sennacherib's army? Right? No matter how God's people had failed or how they had turned from the Lord, God always left a remnant for his people. He was gracious to them. He loved them, and he still does. And so you stop to go, look how good the Lord has been. Even in the midst of your discipline. We looked in chapter 26 that the response to the discipline of the Lord was a whispered prayer, that it was intended to bring about repentance. It says, verse 8, you dealt with her by banishing her, by driving her away. Literally, there's a word that's used here that's only used here. It's only used one time. So in the whole of the Hebrew scriptures. And so it's basasa, which, so some translations will be translated by exact measure, or in scaring, in scaring away. So it could be, so you contended with her by scaring her away, or with inexact measure, by driving her away, by chasing her away. With his fierce wind, he expelled them on the day of the east wind. Right? So, by warfare, by exile, or by exact measure, you contended with her. With his fierce blast, he drove her out as on a day the east wind blows. Right? So God's judgments on Israel in the past were severe. They were severe like the blast of an east wind from the desert. When you read about the east wind, we see the east wind is mentioned throughout the Hebrew scriptures. And so the east wind is this fierce blast it makes a difference. It's harsh, but again, it's not endless. It's not unending. So when you look at but it can be destructive. Genesis 41:6. There we read, behold, there were 7 ears of corn thin and scorched by the east wind sprouting up after them. He's talking about the dream Pharaoh had, but he's describing the east wind. Job 27:21. Of course, the wind coming from the east is coming from the harshest desert. The east wind picks him up and he is gone. It sweeps him out of his place. Psalm 48:8. With an east wind, you broke the ships of Tarshish. Jeremiah 18:17. Like an east wind, I will scatter them before the enemy. I will see their back, not their face, in the day of their calamity. Ezekiel 27:26. Your rowers have brought you into great waters, but the east wind will break you in the heart of the seas. And then Hosea 13:15. Because he is the son of kinsmen, he should have been fruitful. And now this is speaking specifically of the Assyrians and then the Babylonians. An east wind will come, the wind from Adonai coming up from the desert or from the wilderness. His spring will become dry and his fountain will dry up. He will plunder the treasury of every precious vessel. So here the Lord says, you didn't deal with Israel the way you dealt. The Lord has the Lord dealt with you the way he dealt with the nations? Has he that dealt with you? Right? Did the Lord strike you like he struck those who struck you? Did he slay those like he slew those who slayed you? The answer is no. The Lord dealt with you either in exact measure or to get your attention, to frighten you by driving you away. With his fierce wind, he expelled them. Right? By his ruach, with his fierce wind, in the word for expelled is a removing. It uses the word for a separating, and it's the language that's used of when the dross separates from silver. That he He did something in order to there's a purification the Lord was intending to do here. And we'll see that in the next verse. The Lord dealt with you not by destroying you, but by driving you away. It was fierce, like on the day of an east wind, but there was a separation that was intended to be there. Continuing verse 9. So by this, or literally it says, therefore, in these things, Jacob's sin will be atoned for. The twisting of Jacob will be covered. Kippur. It will be covered. So, right, struck and scattered, we've seen. You've been struck, but not like they were struck. You've been scattered. And why? Well, we see it here. Therefore, in these things, Jacob's sin will be covered. And this, the full price to remove his sin. Now, the word for full price here is kol peri, which means kol is all or whole, and peri is fruit. Blessed are you, O Lord. Peri, hagafen, the fruit of the vine, peri. So the whole fruit, and this is the full fruitage, the full fruitfulness. This is the whole fruit concerning the removal of, or the turning course, the averting of his sin. So he's done, these things are to cover your sin, to deal with your sin. All of what God is doing, the reason he hasn't struck you the way he struck them, he's dealing with your sin to cover your sin, to atone for your sin, and the whole fruit of that in removing your sin is this. This is the whole fruit, or the full price, but the whole fruit of averting his sin. Continue. When he makes all the altar stones like shattered chalk stones, so that the Asherah poles and the incense rise no more. So it says, by these things, it looks back to what's just been said. The Lord never acted according to his people the way we deserved, according to what we deserved. He's always had restraint. He struck us, but he scattered us. He didn't destroy. Right? And why? Why? Is it because of favoritism? He made a promise, and he keeps his word. But his promise had purpose to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. That purpose remained. So they were not struck as the other nations were struck, because that purpose still needed to be accomplished so that all the families of the earth would be saved. Israel and Judah got in exile. They were scattered, and they got a remnant because God's purposes were still at work, because God wasn't done, and he still isn't done with Israel. Israel will still be a light to the nations, not follow the darkness of the nation. So in the Lord, in his kindness, was disciplining them in exile, in wanderings, in the scattering. And these things were working toward the purpose of Israel's redemption, of their recovery, of the covering of Israel's sin. And the full price, the whole fruit, the full fruitfulness of the removal of his sins. This is what the removal of the sin, the changing course of the averting of Israel's sin is intended to produce. That it says, when he makes the altar stones to be like chalk stones, crushed to pieces, no Asherah poles or incense poles will be left standing. The fruit must, like the idolatry of the nations that God sent you in, when God brought us into the land, tear down the high places, tear down their altars, tear down their Asherah poles, tear down those things, and worship the Lord your God and only him. The fruitfulness is to result in the averting of our sin, his covering of our sin, is to result in a tearing down to where that which had risen up against the Lord, which had been lifted up to replace him, we were not supposed to be following their ways. We were supposed to be demonstrating his ways. And so the fruitfulness is to be that those ways, the ways that would replace the Lord, the ways that lead to death, would be like chalk on the ground. They would be like dust on the ground. That those stones of those altars would be smashed down to like chalk. right? So the fruit is there's the cause, right, of the sins removal, and it's the result of the sins removal. Because right on the one hand, the smashing of the idols is necessary. The death to all that is necessary for forgiveness to be received. You can't continue. Shall we continue in sin so that grace may abound? God forbid. Romans 6 says, how can we, right? How can we who are dead to sin live in it any longer? Those poles, that's got to be smashed. And yet on the other hand, the announcement of the forgiveness supplies the motivation to do the smashing. God's purposes were that the destructive ways of the world would be demolished and that his righteousness would stand. That when his ways, when his justice, when his governance is demonstrated on the earth, that the people will learn righteousness. That's why back in chapter, I think 25, it was like, I long for you, Lord. I long for you, for your ways, because because when your ways are demonstrated on the earth, the people do righteousness. And I don't think it's beyond, I believe that the Lord can have that sort of immediate intention behind a text and also have buried within that same text, the Lord himself could have buried a meaning which would not have been discerned at the time, but which would come progressively to light. So that we understand and can understand that when full atonement, when full covering has been made, that the worship of the Lord will no longer require sacrifice, so that even the altars upon which our sacrifices were made would be as totally removed, like pulverized limestone is sort of like pulverized like chalk, as the stones of every other stone, because now his full atonement has been made. That wouldn't have been understood in the context of Isaiah's time, and it wasn't time for that. But the initial meaning had to do with the ways of the idolatry of the nations being pulverized to chalk. Verse 10. The fortified city is a lonely habitation, or an isolated habitation, forlorn and forsaken like the desert. There the calf will graze, there lie down and consume its branches. So it says, the fortified city stands desolate, an abandoned settlement, forsaken like the desert. There the calves graze, there they lie down. They strip its branches bare, or they finish off, they complete its branches. There's nothing left of them. Now, what city are we talking about? What's fortified city that's a lonely habitation? So some think it's Jerusalem. That would be pointing to the exile. But this, within the context of chapters 24 to 27, the language here of the fortified city, the unassailable city, the city in its strength, seems to be more related to the fortified city of Isaiah 25:2. Look at Isaiah 25:2. For you have made a city into a heap, a fortified city into a ruin, a foreigner's palace, a city no more, never to be rebuilt. So this is probably, right, the fortified city of the strength of this world, the cities of this world, the strongholds of that which is against God, that has been made into a ruin. So there's the overthrow of people's best endeavors to make themselves secure, fortified. And so the ways of man, the fortified city, is so utterly brought down to dust. Remember, it's brought down and people will trample on it, the weak, the insignificant, trampling on it. And this place is so utterly abandoned by humankind that calves graze there, right? So you have the picture of grazing, suggesting that the branches they're stripped bare, they've been finished off. And that then in verse 11, we see the picture of then women gathering dry wood for the fires. When the boughs are withered, be broken off, they will be shattered. Women come and set them on fire, for it is a people of no understanding. Therefore their maker will show them no mercy. He who formed them will give them no favor or kindness or grace, no chanan. Right? So in deserted cities, when branches are stripped bare, women will come and use the twigs for fires. Those left after the judgment, right, are a people here without understanding. It says here, they are it says, first of all, it is a people of no understandings, binot, discernments. They have no discernments. They don't get it. Here God has made everything available to them, and yet they don't, there's no understanding. So Isaiah, first of all, exposes their inner heart here, the inner heart of the people, their understanding. This is not a people of discernment. Secondly, he talks about the heart of God, who now shows no compassion, none of that. So the word for compassion, racham, is that tender motherly love, the relation of creator to creatures, like that of a mother to child. But here God's love has been alienated by the people's determination to trust their own understanding, their own discernment. They don't have his understanding. And so then they have put themselves beyond the reach of his favor, of his kindness to them, of their creator, of the one who is their potter, the one who molded them, it says. This is the judgment that comes for those who, after everything the Lord has done, after all that he has done, they still refuse understanding. And yet God's final word is not judgment, but it's restoration. These final verses of this whole section, not just the chapter of chapters 24 to 27, come to this. It will come about. Adonai will thresh from the channel of the river to the wadi of Egypt, and you will be gathered one by one, B'nai Yisrael, children of Israel. In that day, right, it says the Lord will thresh from the torrent of the river to the brook, or to the wadi of Egypt. So the term used for the thresh here is to kind of thrash it off, and it's the language that would be used for the beating of the olive trees, and to bring out the final olives. Right, it's the picture of God. Then this is a picture then of God gathering each of the olives one by one. There's a tenderness there. There's a tenderness. There's an individuality that he's gathering. He will gather from the flowing Euphrates to the wadi of Egypt. And again, that's the language that from the flowing Euphrates streams of the river to the wadi of Egypt were the traditional boundaries of the promised land that we read about in Genesis 15:18, in Exodus 23:31, in Joshua 1:4, Psalm 72:8. And so there's a restoration of what God has intended, and they will be gathered up, just like we saw back in 24:13. So it will be in the earth and among the nations as when shaking an olive tree, or as when the gleanings are left after the grape harvest. Right? So God's intent is to restore Israel, and he will be concerned about the salvation of each individual one by one. One by one, it says. Verse 13, it will also come about in that day. A great shofar will be blown. It says, this is Tekiah Shofar Gadol. So, when we do on Rosh Hashanah, we do Tekiah Gedolah, the great Tekiah Gedolah, and we do the great blast of the shofar. It will come about on that day. That will be the Tekiah Gedolah. And the destroyed ones, it says those perishing in the land of Assyria, the ones destroyed in the land of Assyria, and the exiles in the land of Egypt. Right? That they will come and worship Adonai on the holy mountain in Jerusalem. So there's an imagery here of, number one, the dead. The destroyed is those that are dead. And they will come, those dead in Assyria. So this picture of those died in this place of exile. And of course, Mitzrayim, Egypt, Mitzrayim, literally means, the word tsar means distress or bondage. Tsarim means from our distresses, from our bondages. So Egypt is called the land of our bondage because that's what it literally means. And it's a picture of this world in its sinful state, that in the land of our distresses, the land of our bondages. And so in that day, the great shofar will be blown. Right? And those dead in the land of Assyria, and those still alive but exiles in Mitzrayim, those who are alive and remain, will come and worship Adonai on the holy mountain in Jerusalem, right? And so we read about the great shofar, Matthew 24:31. Yeshua says he will send out his angels with a great shofar, and they will gather together his chosen from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. 1 Corinthians 15:52, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last shofar, for the shofar will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we will be changed. And of course, 1 Thessalonians 4:16 through 18. For the Lord himself shall come down from heaven with a commanding shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the blast of God's shofar. And the dead in Messiah shall rise first, right? Those destroyed in Assyria. And then we who are alive who are left behind, the exiles in the land of bondage, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we always be with the Lord. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. Right? So here we see God's purposes will be accomplished. That he is graciously, we've been struck and scattered, but we've been restored. We've been struck and scattered, and then we've been covered to be recovered, restored and resurrected, right? And so we see what the Lord is doing, that his purposes are at work, and we rejoice this day. We rejoice and we walk in his purposes. We continue to walk in faithfulness to him. And I'm going to close by reading what Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 4. He says, we are hard-pressed in every way, but we're not crushed. Right? We're struck. We're perplexed, yet not in despair. We're persecuted, yet not forsaken. Struck down, not destroyed. Always carrying in the body the death of Yeshua, so that the life of Yeshua may be revealed in our mortal body. Verse 16, therefore we do not lose heart. Though our outward man is decaying, yet our inward man is renewed day by day. For our trouble, light and momentary, is producing for us an eternal weight of glory, far beyond all comparison, as we look not at what can be seen, but at what cannot be seen. For what can be seen is temporary, but what cannot be seen is eternal. Amen. All right, well, let me say hello to anybody who I missed at the beginning, because I sent out a late text. So, all right, well, hey, good morning to Karen, and it's good to have you with us, Karen. And I see you're with us for the first time, so or that I know of. And so, good morning to you, and again to Joshua, and good morning to Sonia, and to Rachel, and to Lisa, and to Tina, and to Warrior Maiden, to Kelly Shepherd, and good morning to Eileen. And man, it's great to see everyone. And I saw someone on here say Kalimera to my mother-in-law. So good morning to my in-laws, mom and dad. Love you guys. And my mother-in-law had back surgery yesterday. So if you'd be praying for her, she actually fractured her back, broke bones in her back a couple of months ago, and has been in a lot of pain, and still is. And she is now allowed right now to lift 1 pound, which is nothing. Don't lift anything, Mom. And so continue to pray for them. And cool, Karen, you are in the Netherlands. So good evening in the Netherlands. What time is it in the Netherlands? Fantastic. Well, it's good to have you with us. And Karen, if you want to receive a text whenever we're doing the live stream, all you have to do is send. I don't know if you're able to do this from your phone, but try it. You can send a text like internationally, but you should be able to send a text to the number 33222, and then text the word Shalom AZ, Shalom AZ. And but we're glad to have you with us. And all right, well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.